Since we were kids, we were told a simple story. Work hard, be honest, stay humble, and life will pay you back. But somewhere down the line, you started noticing something odd. The janitor pushed harder than the CEO. The nurse pulled all-nighters while the hospital owner flew in a private jet. The ones who worked the hardest weren't the richest. They were just the most worn out. And the people at the top, most of them didn't carry the heaviest loads. They just figured out how to play a different game. So maybe the real lie isn't just about hard work. Maybe it's about morality itself, and how we've been conditioned to think that suffering is somehow honorable. This is the warning Nietzsche tried to give us. A story about control, guilt, and chains we can't even see, and the tough truth about why the moral worker stays broke. They told you hard work is holy, that sacrifice makes you good, and that being obedient is something to be proud of. From school classrooms to factory floors, from church sermons to your social feed, the same message was pushed. Work hard, stay humble, don't ask too many questions. But where did this belief even come from? And more importantly, who's winning because of it? To really get it, we need to go way back to a world shaped not by money but by moral values. A morality built on Christian teachings, a system that praised humility, uplifted the poor, and glorified pain. In that system, turning the other cheek wasn't just a suggestion, it was sacred. Suffering was seen as holy, and having no power somehow meant you were pure. But then came Nietzsche, and he didn't just question all that. He called it out. He believed it wasn't some God-given truth. It was a survival tactic made by the weak, the hurt, the powerless, to protect themselves from those with strength. He called it slave morality. It's pretty clear-cut. When you can't beat your enemy, you change the rules. If you're weak, you call strength evil. If you're poor, you say money is dirty. If you're scared, you call courage arrogant. This kind of morality doesn't lift people up. It tames them. It trains them to obey, to put up with things, to believe that their pain has some kind of purpose, when really it just benefits someone else. Over time, this way of thinking got turned into a system. Factories didn't want dreamers or thinkers. They needed people who'd follow orders, make sacrifices, and do the same thing over and over. So the story lived on. The harder you grind, the more you're worth. The more you suffer, the more you deserve. Keep quiet, stick to the rules, be a good person. But the truth is, the people who rise up aren't always the ones who suffer the most. They're the ones who know how to step outside the moral rule book. Because being good doesn't automatically lead to success, and going through pain doesn't mean you'll move forward. You were told that being humble is honorable, but maybe it's just helpful for the ones already in charge. So think about it. Are you working hard, or are you being worked? Are you being moral or just easy to manage? Because the real purpose behind workers' morality was never to set you free. It was built to keep you in place, and Nietzsche saw that. They call you a good worker, but have you ever asked what that really means? Today, being good often means being quiet. It means clocking in on time, nodding along, doing what you're told, and never wondering why. We applaud the worker who never complains, never questions, and keeps pushing, even when all they get in return is just enough to scrape by. But here's the reality. No one ever says it out loud. But the system doesn't reward good workers, it drains them. And what do they give you back? A pat on the back, maybe a little award or a pizza party. But never control, never real freedom, never ownership. Somewhere along the road, morality, which was supposed to help people live better, got turned into a weapon. It turned into a tool, a mental leash, masked as something noble. Nietzsche saw this coming. He warned us that morality isn't some universal truth. It's not a gift from above. It's built, shaped by those in charge, to protect their own interests. And in a world run by corporations and strict hierarchies, the kind of morality that rises is the one that keeps people in check. They don't want free thinkers, they want obedient workers. They don't want builders, they want parts that fit into their system. And the smartest way to keep people in line is to convince them that staying in line makes them good. So we accept it. We wear our tiredness like it's something to be proud of. We mix up loyalty with goodness. We call burnout being committed and silence being professional. And when someone finally starts to question it all, they're told to be thankful, to work harder, to stop making noise. Why? Because systems don't hand out rewards for pushing back. They reward those who follow along. We live in a culture where people who grind the hardest are celebrated for sticking to the rules, but never for daring to question them. We cheer on the ones who climb the ladder. But how often do we ask who built that ladder in the first place? Or why it only goes one direction? Morality has become a trap, not because being moral is wrong, but because someone hijacked it. It stopped being about what's right and became about who's in charge. Nietzsche wasn't telling you to throw away morality. He wanted you to see it clearly, not as something sacred, but as something shaped by power. So ask yourself this: are you truly being a good person, or are you just being a useful one? Because if you've never questioned the values you've been handed, then you're not really living by your own rules. You're following someone else's blueprint. And while the good worker gets applause for sticking to the system, there's another kind of person out there, the one who doesn't just follow the rules of the game. They twist the game, break it, and sometimes they run it. These are the amoral winners. Not bad people, not evil, just free from the hidden chains that tie everyone else down. They don't wait for a green light. They don't look for applause. Most of all, they don't bow to the kind of morality that keeps others quiet and controlled. While most people struggle under the weight of passed-down virtue, the immoral winners are busy studying the game. They find the weak spots. They figure out which rules are real and which ones are just made-up limits society agrees on. They're not afraid of being judged. They're afraid of being average. And what do these people usually have? Sharp strategy, magnetic charm, the guts to say no when everyone expects a yes. They don't waste time chasing approval from a system that's already flawed. They focus on power moves, leverage, timing, positioning. Because here's the hard truth. In today's world, the person who wins isn't always the one who works the hardest. It's the one who knows exactly where to push. The one who steps back and asks, what game is this really? And Nietzsche, he saw this more than a century ago. He called it the Übermensch, the overman, not some dictator, not a bad guy, but someone who refuses to be tied down by old borrowed values. Someone who doesn't need a crowd to cheer them on. Someone who finds their own purpose instead of just accepting the one handed to them. The Übermensch isn't just one person. It's a journey, a transformation. It's what happens when you peel off the layers of social programming and finally start living from your inner truth, not the world's checklist. But here's the twist. The world doesn't cheer for these people. It fears them. It calls them cold, arrogant, even dangerous. Why? Because they can't be controlled. Guilt, fear, and shame don't work on them. And still they rise. Not by luck, but by choice. So ask yourself, do you want to be good or do you want to be free? Because if you keep chasing approval from systems that were never built to lift you up, you'll spend your life barely getting by while someone else writes the rules. It's time to think differently, to challenge the script, to stop playing the part you were handed and start becoming who you really are. If this made you stop and think, don't just scroll past. Subscribe to Beyond the Obvious. 1, because you weren't made to blend in. You're here to wake up. Now you see it. The game you were taught to play wasn't meant to set you free. It taught you to be moral, not sovereign, to be helpful, not powerful, to follow, not lead. That's the trap we need to break. And breaking it doesn't mean running. It means seeing clearly and choosing a new path. You were raised to think your value comes from how hard you work, how much you give up, how well you follow the rules. But that mindset has turned millions into quiet machines, always grinding, rarely questioning. But here's the truth. You don't owe the world your burnout. You don't have to hurt to prove you matter. You weren't born to be a moral worker. You were born to be a conscious creator. That's where the change begins. From moral labor to smart living. From seeking outside approval to living by your own truth. This doesn't mean ditching ethics. It means dropping the guilt you inherited and replacing it with principles you choose. Your code, your compass, your reason. Real power starts the moment you stop asking, is this what I'm supposed to do? And start asking, is this what I choose to do? Nietzsche didn't just want you to tear down fake morality. He wanted you to build a new self. Not shaped by rules, but by responsibility. Not driven by obedience, but by awareness. He believed greatness starts the moment you say, I won't inherit meaning, I'll create it. And from there, everything shifts. You begin to see work not as suffering, but as strategy. You stop worshipping pain and start aiming for purpose. You stop blindly serving the system. You engage them strategically. You shape your time, your energy, your value with intention, because real freedom isn't found in quitting the system. It's found in no longer being defined by it. So now the question is yours to answer. Are you living your life, or are you just performing your role? Are you acting from truth or reacting from programming? You can stay in the cage, call it noble, and keep suffering. Or you can step out, not in rebellion, but in reclamation. The choice isn't easy, but it is yours. And once you see the lie, you can't unsee it. If this made something shift in you, then don't let it fade. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. Subscribe to Nexphilo, where we don't just think, we awaken.